Northwest Liberty News, picking the lock on the shackles of tyranny.
Machines are going to fail, and the system's going to fail.
The past is past, the future's now.
Don't look at me. I think these people are completely nuts.
Sometimes trouble just follows a man.
There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus.
Can't you stop your lips from flapping for 2 little minutes?
Because I'm white.
I'm a man. I'm sensitive. I need to feel loved. I need to be desired.
I'm rapidly becoming a big underground success in this town.
It's a question of methods. Everybody wants results, but nobody wants to do what they have to do to get them done.
And now, coming to you live from Kalispell, Montana, brought to you by Northwest Liberty News, it's Montana Gazette Radio with your host, James White. Okay, so I'm your host, James White. This is Montana Gazette Radio. Thanks so much for joining me here today on the 16th day of February 2021. And time just keeps ticking away day by day. Already February. Seems like it was just New Year's here last week. And we appreciate you joining us here. If everything's working properly, we should be simulcasting on multiple platforms. 2 YouTube channels, 2 or 3 Facebook channels, LinkedIn, Twitch, Periscope, and D Live. Again, this is the 16th day, a snowy day overnight here in Kalispell, and we are not getting it nearly as bad as the people I think down in Texas, where they have pretty much had record cold and freezing down there, and we're going to hit that in a minute here. Seth Berglee is, I interviewed Seth yesterday, and he is, I have that video loaded up here in the interview ready to go. I'll be playing that here just in a couple of minutes. But if you're not familiar with Seth and his work there in the Montana legislature, he's a very pro-Second Amendment, very, very friendly, of course, to the Constitution. And we've interviewed Seth numerous times, and we're delighted to have him on the show yesterday. And he will, as I said, he will be coming on here just in a couple of moments. Actually, just in a few minutes, I'm going to play the video. So we're having a little bit of a, looks like a connection here with YouTube. It was giving me some connection errors. I think maybe it's okay now. Who knows what's going on these days, folks? I mean, they're cracking down all over the place on conservatives and alternative media. So we're just going to have to continue to rely on you, the folks, to help get the word out and help support this show and shows like this one. And again, we're in a war. This is a battle, and we're against an enemy that wants to take over this country. And on that note, this is probably a pretty good time to bring about the first article that we have here I want to discuss. Pelosi pushes ahead with a 9/11 type commission to fight domestic war on terror. This is her saying that we're in a war on terror, domestic terror. And of course, that's probably going to be, I don't know, QAnon followers, conservatives, Trump fans, MAGA people, that type of thing. I haven't had a chance to fully look through this article here yet. But isn't it interesting how the call now is for a 9/11 commission to fight domestic war on terror. Yeah, while they were burning down cities, pulling people out of cars, burning down individual businesses, closing roads, closing down cities, taking over parts of cities and putting up barriers and creating their own cities within cities. While all that was going on, of course, there was hardly a call from Nancy Pelosi. As a matter of fact, she said that she's surprised that there's not these uprisings going on all across the country. I don't remember the sound clip that she used, but pardon me. You see the double standard. You see the hypocrisy. It's very obvious, and it just continues. You know, I just read. I didn't get a chance to bring this up here, but they are The Biden administration apparently is going to be signing putting forth legislation to the Democrat side of the two-party duopoly, the fraud, the phony right-left paradigm that we're all in. He's going to be putting a bill together for the Democrats to introduce that's going to give immediate citizenship to 11 million illegals. Just like that. What about the process? What about the things that are already in place? What about the system that we have already set up for these people to come into the country and gain citizenship? Because there's a lot of people that do that. A lot of people that follow the rules and do what they're supposed to do to gain citizenship. And these people don't. They just cut in line, and all the work, it's almost like the same situation with we've talked about the gender sports issue, where, you have a female athlete that's trained her whole life and she's ate the right kind of foods. She's got up early and done her, went in her weight training and did all of her, anything that she needs to do to make herself a top athlete. And it comes down to the point where she has the big race, and someone who was born another gender gets to race against her or compete against her and just crushes her. Similar type thing. I mean, these people, they work hard to get into this country. They do what's necessary to pass all the laws and everything that's been established previously for immigration, and they just get to skip all that, and they become citizens. And, that just pokes all those other people like right in the eye that have been working really hard to gain citizenship. Not against people coming into the country, as long as they do it legally and lawfully, and what we really do is we want the best people here that are going to come here and try to get citizenship. We don't want to let in rapists and murderers and traffickers and things like that. Do we? Sure hope not. I don't. I hope you don't either. Let's see what else we got going on here. Boy, you want to talk about the collapse. This is one of the main donors here. This was a big donor, I believe, here in Montana. They are the Lincoln Project is just falling apart completely. Now we see the Rick Wilson, who was one of the guys there in the Lincoln Project. He raised $64,000 for an anti-Trump film that was never released. And we find out that these people now were involved in covering up, or at least turning the other way, about one of their co-founders grooming young men to do, what creeps do to young men. This is the Lincoln Project, and they are falling apart. The rabid anti-Trumpers. If you remember this guy, Kelly Conway, her husband George Conway, in my view, one of the most vile guys, breathing oxygen, frankly. This guy was a part of this group, and they are, I think, crashing and burning right now, which is, probably not a bad thing. If the truth comes out, the truth comes out, right? So that is, one of those things where it's poetic justice. You hear about that. Also here, David Howard, who's been on my show numerous times, and I should get David on again. I didn't know that he was sponsoring this bill here. I would have had him on here to talk about it. But let me see here. Let me pop out over here. David Howard, Senator David Howard. There we go. This is Senate Bill number 162. See if I can make it a little bit larger here. There we go. Senate Bill number 162, introduced by David Howard, a bill for an act entitled An Act Generally Revising Campaign Finance Laws, revising reporting requirements applicable to religious organizations and campaigning to protect the free exercise of religion as guaranteed by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution and Article 2, Section 5 of the Montana Constitution. So what this is going to do is this is going to give churches an extra level of protection. And when it comes to campaign finance laws, this is, I think this, he introduced this, I'm not sure where it's at right now, but I'll reach out to David here and find out about this. But it's basically falls under the religious freedom, the rights guaranteed by the First Amendment to the Constitution, and we can get we're going to try to get, as I said, David on the show here. I'll reach out to David today after the show and see if I can get him on to do a quick interview about this bill and to tell us about it. But again, that's why it's important to elect good legislators, and we need to be a part of that process as well. If there's something that you see, smart meters, for example, I know that's a topic that's just come up here, and also I believe that we're going to be breaking the news here, I believe, on this show, waiting for some information now about a bill that's going to be introduced that's going to put the social media giants in check in Montana when they go to censor anybody. So that's I believe going to be introduced, and I don't see how that can be. I think there's a lot of support for that. So we'll have David Howard on to talk about Senate Bill 162. Try to get him, as I said, on maybe today or tomorrow to discuss that. And he's been on the show numerous times. Like, David's a good guy. Okay, let's. We talked about this just a minute ago. Millions without power as deep freeze continues across the United States. Now, we've been talking, and apparently half of the wheat crop in Texas has been wiped out. I read that a little bit earlier. I don't believe it mentions it in this story right here, but we've heard about the cold, the deep freeze that's going across the United States. And, I think I was here live on the show the other day when I popped up Great Falls and it was 22 below. That was the air temperature I was doing the show like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I think. 22 below there in Great Falls, and I don't think that was even the coldest place in Montana. However, this is very unusual cold for these states, and it's record, I believe, in some of them. And there's a lot of people without power. And as I said, I read this morning that half the wheat crop got wiped out. Now, I don't pretend to know, what percentage of the wheat crop that we get for our daily use comes from the state of Texas or in that area. Don't know, but Texas is a pretty big state, and I imagine there's probably a lot of wheat fields there. And if half of them are wiped out, it's going to be a lot. And I don't know, you're already seeing the prices around the gas pump around here just went up another 6 or 7 cents, I believe, because the refinery, the largest refinery in the country, is in Texas, and it had to shut down because of cold. So we talked about the grand solar minimum here on this show, have talked about it numerous times. David Devine over at Adapt 2030 does some great work over there on that topic, and I would suggest that you look into that. And we're going to take a quick break here, and on the other side we're going to come back and pick up the Seth Berglee interview. But one of the ads here that you're going to see is going to be for Patriot Prepared. Food prices are going to go up, folks. This freeze across the country here is not good for crops, and it's going to raise the prices of, food. We've been calling on this for a long time. So check out Patriot Prepared. As I said, it's the second commercial here, and we're really giving some good deals right now on big food packages with free shipping. So check that out. We'll be back with Seth Berglee after these brief messages here on Montana Gazette Radio. Pardon me. You can support us at montanagazetteradio.com or montanadailygazette.com. And we'll be back, or the flagship northwestlibertynews.com. We'll be back after these brief messages. If you like classic cars, exceptional service, and a money-back guarantee, then the Corner Shop in beautiful downtown Kalispell is the place for you. Whether it's an oil change, engine diagnostic, suspension work, or brakes all around, the Corner Shop has you covered. With expert technicians and a free consultation on all services, you can't go wrong with the Corner Shop. Did I mention the classic cars? While you're waiting for your expert service to be performed, take a stroll through the showroom to see Kalispell's smoothest collection of classic cars. The Corner Shop is conveniently located at 1212 South Main, just south of the courthouse. The Corner Shop is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., so drop by for an appointment or call 755-7777. That's 755-7777. The Corner Shop, Kalispell's full-service auto repair facility. Hi, this video is brought to you by PatriotPrepared.com, where right now you can save $250 on each large package purchase, plus get free shipping to the continental United States. In these troubled times, it's not a bad idea to have some extra food storage available, and you can save big at Patriot Prepared right now. Go to PatriotPrepared.com, that's PatriotPrepared.com, and use the code TRUMP250 at checkout to receive your savings today. Okay, thanks for hanging on after the break. I'm your host, James White. This is Montana Gazette Radio. It's the 16th day of February, 2021. Thanks so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Okay, so I interviewed Seth Berglee yesterday afternoon, and it was right before, I think, in between house sessions, so I got a chance to get him on the show. I wanted to wait to play that interview with him today to give it the best exposure for him. He's done some excellent work there in the legislature, and we appreciate the work that he does. So I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and spin up this video here, and I'll be back at the end of it to close out the show. And I don't know if I closed out this interview or not, but if not, I'll be back here. It's probably about 18 minutes long, and I'll see you just on the other side of this interview with Representative Seth Berglee. Here we go. Hi, James White from Montana Gazette Radio. Thanks so much for joining me here today on the broadcast on this 15th day of February, 2021. And I'm with a familiar face here on the show. Seth Berglee has been a guest numerous times here on the broadcast. He is the representative from Montana House District 58. He's a strong pro-gun advocate and great conservative, and we're delighted to have him here on the show. Seth Berglee, thanks so much for joining us here today on Montana Gazette Radio.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Seth, as I said, lots happened since you've been on here. The show last, that's for sure.
Yeah.
If you can give us a little bit of a, there's been a lot of, with the speaker of the House and the whole thing with all that. There's been a lot of drama that happened, pre-legislative session. But we can maybe bypass over that some. Give me an overview, like a 30,000 foot view, Seth, right now, before we sort of dig into things more specifically. Give me a 30,000 foot view so far of how you think the legislative session is going so far, and of course I'm speaking about in favor of conservatives is really what I'm wondering.
Sure.
Over to you.
Yeah, so it's before any session, especially this session more so than my past three sessions, there's been a lot of questions about we have a new governor, we have a Republican governor, what that looks like. We want to get stuff done. So starting the session off, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of Republicans this time, which means a lot of ideas, a lot of individuality. So getting all that figured out and getting rolling, we're just individuals. We like to do things kind of our own way, and we like to have our voices heard. And so I think it's been a good session. So far, we've gotten some pretty good legislation through. My House Bill 102 is now on the governor's desk, waiting to be signed. I think he's signing it on Wednesday. And we've had starting to get some tax bills come through. We've had a bunch of pro-life bills come through judiciary, dealing with various aspects of that. Moving forward. And the nice thing this time is that a lot of these bills are likely to get signed by the governor. So actually affecting some actual change.
Yeah, good stuff. And before we get into the permitless carry legislation that you put forth, well, let's just touch on that now. Fantastic job, by the way, permitless carry. I think this is a great thing to take advantage of the new conservative leadership here in Montana, is to further secure and cement our God-given rights. Really, as you know, the Constitution doesn't give us our rights. All it does is just enumerates what our rights are, pretty much, and puts them on paper.
Correct.
But we that legislation, there's gun owners all across Montana, Seth, that are very delighted that you put that legislation forth. Tell us about that. Is that the one you're talking about? There's so many bills. Is that is that 102 you're talking about? Tell us about that. It is.
So, and it actually does a few things. It does allow for permitless carry, which that's sort of a misunderstood thing in a lot of cases in Montana, because I get a lot of messages from people talking about how I'm destroying the training requirements and killing the permit system and all that. That's the wrong way of looking at it from my perspective. My perspective is that you can already open carry in 90% of these places or more, and I just allow you to conceal carry as well as open carry, which is a safer, more effectual, less public impact, however you want to look at it. It's just a better way of carrying in general. So I think that's the right perspective to have. We should allow people to conceal carry a firearm if we're going to allow them to open carry them. That's just common sense to me. It also expands into the colleges, so it allows for carry on college campuses. That was probably one of the biggest changes overall in the bill that it did. And there's some restrictions. You can't carry at events that serve alcohol. You can't carry at sporting events if they are, secured access with armed security on site. If it's a game or a concert or something and they're running through a metal detector, that was one of the areas where we gave a little bit on in terms of safety. There's a couple other small amendments that sort of deal with, like courtrooms or office areas of law enforcement agencies. But to me, the biggest trade-off for that and the amendment that we put on in the Senate was to allow for permitless carry in bars and restaurants, because to me, that's one of the biggest areas for normal Montanans carrying. If you go into just about any of these, normal restaurants, most of them serve alcohol, which then you'd be prohibited from concealed carrying without a permit. So to me, that was one of the biggest areas that we changed as well. So, and then it allows you with a permit to carry in some additional places, for instance, the state capitol. So it does expand your rights as a concealed carry permit holder as well.
Well, gee whiz, Seth, with all the gas stations in Montana pretty much having a casino attached serving alcohol, you almost can't even go into the gas station for crying out loud without that. I mean, they're everywhere. They're everywhere, that's for sure. Well, here's something that I brought up on my show before, and I just want to get this point clear since we're talking about it. And I'm sure you will agree, a private business still has the right to say that we don't want concealed carry or even any firearms at all in our location. And so before people start making phone calls, it's not against the law for a private business to make that. What you do as a consumer is you say, okay, I'm just not going to shop at a place that doesn't allow, or whatever you choose to do. But as far as like being unlawful, the private business still has a right to deny anybody from coming in open carry or anything like that. Is that correct, Seth?
Sure. Yep. It goes back to the life, liberty, and property. I'm not trying to raise the rights of, gun owners above the rights of property owners. That's not that's a different discussion for a different bill, depending on how you want to look at that. But yeah, I didn't want to get into that debate. It's going to be, if you have a private business, people can still vote with their feet. If they put up a sign and say, hey, we don't want guns to come in here, you don't have to go to their business. So.
Yeah, right on. I think that's the sort of the American way, is just, free market. Now, you talked today about how before the show, we talked briefly about the pro-life bills that are that you heard today. Please tell me that they're going to, and they may have. I think like I said, there's so many bills. They just come at you rapid fire. I'm trying to keep track of all of them. But the Baby Born Alive Act that Dr. Alashevsky put out here a couple, 2-3 years ago, maybe last session or the session before, that got vetoed by the governor. Please tell me that is they're going to make another trip to try to get that through and get it signed by Gianforte.
Sure. Yep, that's already through the House. So Patient Born Alive, Pain Capable, both those bills are already through judiciary through the House and headed to the Senate. I don't know where they're at over there. I haven't tracked that. The bill we had today was the constitutional amendment for personhood, which would state that life begins at conception, and that's the simplest form. So that's going to be run again as an initiative. So that wouldn't go to Greg. That would actually go to the people to vote on in the state of Montana.
Seth, we've got places like Missouri, and there's one other state, I don't remember which one it is. Now, I'm pro-life, and I'm not ashamed of it at all. I mean, I don't think you should kill any children. Was there a chance that we might see, like they have, I think, in Missouri, where there's absolutely no abortions now in Missouri? They've run all of these abortion clinics out of the state, and you can't get an abortion in Missouri anymore. Do you think that is some of the goals? That'd be my goal if I was in the legislature. Is that a goal of the legislature, perhaps, now that we have sort of a conservative legislature, maybe to get to the point where there's no abortions in Montana anymore? Is that something is that a goal? At least it's been discussed.
Sure. I would say so. Just talking philosophically, if for no other reason, this, to me, the abortion issue comes down to one question: is it life, and when is it life?
Right.
And if it's then, we have a lot of things that come up. Life of the mother, rape and incest. Kind of. Some not mainstream. They do occur, obviously, and it's a concern. But then looking at those questions philosophically, it's like killing a human for any reason is always wrong, except for the defense or saving the life of another. And that's the lens that I think most pro-life and people kind of think of it as an extreme view. But the reality is a life's a life. And if you're taking a life for any reason, that has to be justifiable. And so that, to me, that's the argument. And if the argument is that life begins at conception and that is a human, then there's really no justification for killing that human other than to save the life of the mother, which then that becomes the mother's choice. Tim Tebow, right? You got somebody, they told him, hey, you're probably going to die if you carry this kid to term. She said, I'm willing to take that chance. Tim Tebow, right? So I think that is up to the individuals, and that's not what any of this is aimed at. We're not trying to, and it gets drug up in the committees, but it's either a life or it isn't. And if it is a life, then it should be protected.
I was out and about and I ran into a very high-ranking member of the Montana Senate, and we started talking about a couple of things. And specifically, we talked about the gender identification stuff that's been going through. And he stated to me that the Biden administration was going to withhold, I think he said $500 million in funding if we didn't kind of get on board with their agenda. And the reason I brought that up is I'm wondering, is it your thought? Are you planning on, or do you expect the Biden administration, because the conservative values and views don't match the Biden administration's values and views. We know this. Do you think they're going to try to put pressure on Montana and hang that carrot in front of us as far as fiscal, you're not going to get your money. We're not going to give you grants and that type of thing. Do you see them maybe moving towards some of these bills that we're trying to pass here in the Montana legislature? Do you see the Biden administration putting pressure on us to comply?
I think so. That's going to go back to, I guess it had been under the Obama administration, they had a bill that came out, or executive order. They were pushing for the school funding when we had some of the transgender, the bathroom bills, some of that. There was questions about if that would ruin funding. Same thing with House Bills 112, 113.
Right.
And with transgender issues, and if that would affect federal funding. The Obama administration was sued, and that case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and then ultimately was dropped when the Trump administration came in. They rescinded that order, but that was litigated all the way to the Supreme Court. So I think that gets into a differing of opinions of whether he has the right to do that based off of what the laws are or aren't. I don't think that's anything that anyone could say is settled at this point. So there's always the potential of him withholding funds, but that's a court decision to some degree.
Well, how about the North and South Dakota, who I think both of their legislatures have come out and stated publicly, and I don't know if they've carried through with it yet, but what they're going to do is they're going to pass legislation that basically nullifies executive orders from the Biden administration.
If they see him as being unconstitutional.
Correct.
Sure.
If they see him as
I'm not aware of anything going through specifically that does that. I would say a lot of that comes on to the Attorney General's shoulders, which, we have Austin Knudsen in there, who's a stalwart, personal property rights, gun rights advocate for sure. And I know that he hired a solicitor general whose main job is, a watchdog on the feds and what they're doing. He's leading the XL pipeline deal. So I think we've got a great advocate there for the next 4 years at least. And there is stuff going through Montana. There was a bill that's been kind of a big hubbub right now that deals with prohibiting federal or state enforcement of federal firearm weapons.
HB 258.
Yeah, which was tabled in committee. I was not in committee that morning, so I can't speak to all of the specifics of it, but basically it came down to a disagreement on some amendments, whether they were or weren't needed. So I've got a lot of questions about that. That bill is going to be coming out, and it obviously will be passed. I think people just haven't come to a consensus on whether those amendments are the right things to do.
I interviewed Gary Marbett and Jedediah Hinkle here just a couple of days ago regarding that specific bill, and it has been a little bit contentious. We published a couple articles on Montana Daily Gazette, and I think we maybe got a couple of conservatives a little bit upset at us, but it would just call it like we see it. We published another article that sort of cleared things up, but we just want what's ever fair and equitable and the most liberty for the folks is what we want here at Montana Gazette, and I'm sure you do too. Okay, well, a couple more questions for you, Seth. What do you see coming up here? What is your fingers right on the pulse? I know you're a very active member of the legislature. What is coming up next here? What should the folks that listen to this broadcast, what should be on their radar as far as, becoming active to help some of these this legislation pass that really is important to conservatives here in Montana?
Sure. So we've got some bills dealing with the ability for counties, the county authority, county health officials authority, some of that stuff limiting it, which now that Greg's, passed or gotten rid of the mask mandate, that stuff's becoming front and center. Matt Regier is working on a bill. David B is working on a bill. I think they're trying to get that through the committees and out. That does a lot with that. We have some choices in education bills coming out, which kind of allows for parents to make more of a determination funding the kids versus the systems. I'm carrying a tax credit scholarship bill, the Espinosa case, which is up in your neck of the woods, Espinosa's. So I'm expanding that program. We're trying to figure out the funding mechanisms and some of the specifics of that. We've had the hearing. That's House Bill 279. Sue Vinton, I believe, has a bill on the floor today, I think, or coming up, the committee, where she's presenting. It's a special education savings account. So you can put money into a savings account and then use that to fund needs for special education. So we've got some good kind of personal choice, personal freedom, parental involvement type bills coming out on the school choice side. And then I think the liability stuff and limiting some of these unelected bureaucrats and a lot of the health officials and stuff and trying to rein them in and turn that back over to elected officials being accountable. We've got some of those bills coming too or in process. So there's a lot of other stuff, tax bills and trying to deal with that. Unfortunately, because of COVID and other things, the economy's taken a bit of a hit. So it's really hard to cut taxes and to balance the revenues. So it's very limited on what we can do. We're trying to be smart about it.
Well, I tell you something here, last comment here. First of all, thank you for that. I was troubled somewhat that our new governor wanted to give all the federal employees raises that didn't lose any paychecks during the whole COVID thing. Yet the residents the residents of Montana who had their businesses closed and who were locked down and lost a tremendous amount of income, they didn't get any raise. Matter of fact, a lot of them lost their jobs. I just think that optically speaking, is not a very good for one of the first maneuvers that Governor Gianforte pulled off was the giving everybody in the state a raise who's, like I said, hasn't lost a paycheck in the last year. That's a little bit, any thoughts on that? And you're looking to throw the governor on the bus. I'm not either. Sure. But I just,
Well, I got 4 minutes before floor starts, so I'll be quick. I think the deal with that is that some of the background, it was a negotiated, revenues were down. Obviously, it was negotiated 50 cents the second year. There was some questions about if that was voted down, if that would then trigger a renegotiation of the contract. At that point in time, we were also looking at the revenue forecast was trending upward. And so it was looking like we might have more income coming in. And since that is a negotiated contract, 50 cents, it's about half or a third of what it normally is. So there was some worry from the governor that if he had to renegotiate that he was never going to it's never going to go down. You always compromise to the middle. And so I think some of it for him was, trying to extend an olive branch of sorts. He's trying to not come across as the cut and slash Republican hardliner that he's been painted. I don't know that you can necessarily win any friends by doing that. And it doesn't really prevent enemies sometimes. So it's not always a winning strategy. I definitely don't think it was a good timing for him and for optics before some of these other good bills are going through. But yeah, that's a complicated issue to some degree. I agree with you on that side. A lot of people have been hurt, but then a lot of people haven't too. You've got some businesses that are booming right now because of COVID. So it's
Amazon.
Difficult one right there for sure.
All right, Seth, I know you got to run to the floor. Thanks so much for giving us your time, man. I know you're very busy. Real quick, websites or anywhere people can reach out and find out more about you, anything like that really quick before you go?
Not too much. We have a Shield Arms, my business, so not to plug it shamelessly on here, but it's up Flathead, so you can check that out. And then I would just stay involved with the legislative stuff, and there's always some background, so give us the benefit of the doubt if there's stuff going through committees or you hear something. There's always a lot more going on. We're a lot busier up here than just one bill at a time. So
well, right on, Seth. Keep me in the loop. Give me a call anytime if anything breaks. I'd be happy to get you on the show. Thanks again, Seth Berglee, so much for being here today. Keep up your great work. Look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Seth. Take care, brother. Bye now. Okay, folks, there goes Seth Berglee, one of the really good legislators here. Really solid conservative guy here, solid conservative legislator here in Montana. We're delighted that Seth came on the broadcast. Okay, we can end that there. Thanks so much for hanging on after that break. Yeah, great legislator, Seth Berglee there. We're delighted to have him on the show. He's been on a couple times when we were doing the EIV radio broadcast there leading up to the election. What we talked about, what I've talked about here before, folks, is you can get it's really important if you're in Montana or whatever state you live in to become involved in the, in the what's going on. You can contact your legislators, reach out, you can show up. We've had people here on the show this last week that I think 2 people on the show last week that went right in front of the Montana legislature and spoke, right there on the floor. So, this is stuff that you can do, and I would encourage you to do it because this is really your government. And I think we're starting to kind of get that now again, finally, getting the idea that this is our government and we have to participate in it to make sure that the people that we've elected, our representatives, are doing what's right and proper. And it's a big job because they don't often do that. We appreciate you looking in here on the show. I'll be back here at 11 o'clock with John Hamer. He's in over across the pond, as they say. He's the author and speaker. He wrote one of the definitive books about the Titanic. That's not why he's here today. We're going to talk about his new upcoming book. But I sent that out, an announcement out there. You should see that. So again, I'll be back here in just about an hour and a half or so with John Hamer for a 1-hour show with Critical Disclosure. MontanaGazetteRadio.com, MontanaGazetteRadio.com, MontanaDailyGazette.com, or the flagship northwestlibertynews.com. We do appreciate your support. Support our sponsors. Go to patriotprepared.com for your food needs. Till next time, this is James White for Montana Gazette Radio saying bye now.